Of the Yankton City Commission, please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin, let's have a moment of silence in remembrance of 911, please. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Sergeant.
Here.
Birdie.
Here.
Mybom.
Here.
Knopf. Here. Meiner.
Here.
Mosier.
Here.
Mayor Hoffner.
Present.
City Manager Nelson. Here. City Attorney Denver.
Here.
We have a quorum, so we'll continue with conducting business. Number 2 under routine business, you have before the minutes of the regular meeting of August 28th. Take a motion to approve, please.
Motion to approve the minutes. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion in regards to the minutes? Anybody from the audience? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, you have before the schedule of bills and presented in your packet.
Move we pay the bills.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pay the bills. Any discussion? Questions? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Birdie.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Meiner.
Aye.
Mosier.
Aye.
Sergeant.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye. Motion carried. We now have the city manager's report. Number 4.
Honorable Mayor, members of the Commission, and public, I do not have anything in specific to bring out at this time. Unless there's questions of me, I'll let you get on to your business.
Any questions? Anybody from the audience? Not even the size of recycling bins? Sorry, I brought it up. This is the time in the agenda that each meeting we offer the public for their appearance. If anything not on the agenda, we welcome anyone to come forward and discuss what they have on their mind.
Could I?
Yep. Go ahead, Julie. State your name, please, Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie Fisher, for those of you that don't know me, and I do the bragging rights on Thursday nights down at the river. This will be in September will be our last bragging rights for the season, and we're expecting a really large crowd. So I had called the city to Brittany and requested picnic tables, which she said would not be a problem. The other thing I asked, and she hasn't gotten back to me, but what I was wondering is if I could get an answer to it as soon as possible, is the lot that's adjacent to the bridge on the other side that the city owns. If there's a possibility, if we have an overflow of cars, if we put the picnic tables underneath the bridge, and then be able to park a few cars over on that side, because Levy Street's closed. We used that last year a little bit for maybe 10 or 12 cars that were in overflow, because we had almost 100 cars last bragging rights and over 30 bikes. And since it's our last one, we have a band. We have several things going on down there that I think we're going to have a pretty good crowd.
That's September 28th, is that correct?
Yep, it's the day before the fireball, the night before the fireball run.
I guess Amy could make that decision, can't you, without the city commission by looking at the request?
Yes, I can.
So I think the staff would look at it and make sure that it doesn't interfere with anything or legalities, and run it by Ross if they have to, and then make that decision.
We actually had a meeting scheduled today that didn't work
I had
out,
an
but
emergency
I can
come
give
up.
you a call in the morning sometime if that
Sure.
works for you, and we can talk about it.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for all the support on that too. Bragging rights, everybody loves it, and it's just growing and growing. I'm hoping we're going to outgrow our spot real soon, but it's a good deal. People love it. It's free, and they just come. And we have a list for next year, 2018 bragging rights. We have like 18 nonprofits that want to serve. We won't have enough nights, but anyway, thanks for all your help.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for doing that. That's an awesome event. Anybody else? We'll move on to consent items. We have two. Number one is a work session for setting September 25th, 6 p.m., room 114 here in this building, for discuss a housing study. And number two is a peddler license application, memorandum 17-204 for Midco.
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Do we know if this individual listed in number 2 is as an individual? I know it says Midco, but the residence listed is actually a residence. Would it be worth talking about this outside of the consent agenda?
I do not know the answer to that. Al, do you happen to know?
It says it's Midco. The address is an individual's residence in Sioux Falls. So I'd be curious to know who the individual is and if they are actually an employee of Midco.
We checked that out with law enforcement to make sure there's no wants and stuff like that, so I would assume he is, but I can't verify that without looking. I can get back to you with email tomorrow, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? From the audience? Roll call, please.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Moser.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Ferdig.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffman.
Aye. Motion carried. Moving on to old business. Number 1 and through 4, I guess, will all be public hearings for the sale of alcoholic beverages for memorandum 17-193 for September 12th, the Chamber of Commerce, Rivera Pavilion.
Move the memorandum.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Moser.
Abstain.
Sarda.
Aye.
Ferdig.
Abstain.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffman.
Aye. Motion carried. Number 2 under old business is a public hearing as well with memorandum 17-194 for a special event October 10th in the Chamber of Commerce.
Move the memorandum.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Minor.
Aye.
Moser.
Abstain.
Sarda.
Aye.
Ferdig.
Abstain.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffman.
Aye, motion carried. Moving on to number 3 is also a public hearing. Memorandum 17-195 for November 14th. Chamber of Commerce.
Move the memorandum.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Moser.
Abstain.
Sarda.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Moser. Again. Mayor Hoffman.
Aye. Motion carried. Number 4, under old business. This is a time and place for another public hearing for the sale of alcoholic beverages. Memorandum 17-196 for December 12th for the Chamber.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the public? Roll call, please.
Sarda.
Aye.
Ferdig.
Abstain.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Moser.
Abstain.
Mayor Hoffman.
Aye. Motion carried. Number 5 under old business is another public hearing. Memorandum 17-197 for special events, one day for October 7th.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Ferdy.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Moser.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye. Motion carried. Number 6 under old business is another public hearing, memorandum 17-198 for a special events retail license September 28th from the center.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Moser.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Ferdy.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye. Motion carried. Number 7, this is a time and place for a second reading and public hearing of ordinance 1001 for our budget. What is your pleasure?
Move the memorandum.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any questions at all for anything about the budget?
I just want to make sure, I guess we're doing this correct, because there's 2 items under the agenda, A and B, so do I need to make, does there need to be 2
There's
separate?
2 different actions. This is just on the ordinance tonight, or on the first action, I mean, is just on the ordinance.
So we're voting on 1001.
Okay.
We'll have another one under resolution 17-135.
Correct. All right.
Thanks, Dave. Any questions? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Moser.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Ferdy.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye. Motion carried. Now on to B under ordinance pertaining to the budget. Resolution 17-35.
Move the memorandum.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Minor.
Aye.
Moser.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Ferdy.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye. Motion carried. We're moving on to new business. Number 1, a request to reconsider a decision regarding closure of the Meridian Bridge for chamber event memorandum 17-206.
I'd like to make a motion to close both levels of the bridge on Friday, September 29th, between 7 and 10 a.m. to allow all vehicles in Fireball Run to participate on the bridge at once.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any questions?
If we can just refresh our memory on what we didn't pass last time, if this is being brought in front of us, Al or Amy, if you can review with us.
Yes, the last motion was to allow 1 car at a time. So to leave the bridge open for 1 car at a time, basically, the same rating, weight rating as we know that we have documentation for. So that was approved. I can't remember the vote, but I think it was unanimously approved.
Any other questions?
Has any discussion been had with Amazon or these producers that they would take all responsibility, hold the city harmless, pay for any damage? Has that been part of the discussion at all?
I have not discussed that with them. No, I have not been in contact with them.
Okay, have they put that out there that they, if anything were to happen, that they would take the responsibility for that?
Carmen or Casey may want to speak to that, but not for us, no.
Okay.
Not to us, anyway.
Carmen?
Carmen Schramm with the Yankton Chamber. Jake, can I defer to you shortly on, you signed a waiver as a driver and the team in this,
Yes.
that if anything should happen to you during this entire 8-day run, that Fireball Run is not liable. Is that a correct statement? And that you have coverage and everything for the event? I'm not familiar with the waiver that you signed, so I'm asking.
Yeah, I
guess.
can't remember exact. language, but there's a waiver that had to be signed by the drivers.
Right. Just to give the commission a little bit more information, after the last commission meeting, we did go back and we had a meeting with them and explained to them the situation. And I can't repeat what they said. It was not good. And basically, the producer said, well, two things: either all of this goes to Vermilion, or you have to do the green flag event anyway, and none of it will be in the finished product. And therefore, you will lose the majority of what you're doing. He was quite upset about it, obviously, because they felt like that was not what was submitted to them and promised to them last year when this was all submitted to Fireball One to be a selection of the city of Yankton. And basically, those are not good options for us, obviously, as a community, as far as, the final production of this product. We do understand the commission. We understand the rating. Unfortunately, we would like to have you consider that, since it was a promise that we made, and I'm a little concerned about our credibility after all of this. Plus, if it doesn't happen and it doesn't get in the film, there's a lot of time, effort, money, and credibility on me and my staff's part for a lot of stuff that just won't be in the final film. So, not a good situation for any of us, unfortunately. But like I said, I guess, we're here to ask you to reconsider. And then we would like to maybe circle around with everybody and say, okay, let's determine going forward with all other events, what we will and will not do on the bridge. Because we do understand that it is a pedestrian rating. But
I would also like to point out, I guess, the being a car guy, the gross vehicle weight of 40 cars doesn't even come close to the amount of motorcycles that were on that bridge at the same time for Rock and Rumble. I mean, multiple times. So as far as weight-wise goes, and I'm not saying anything can't happen, but yeah, there's 2 to 3 times as much weight over Rock and Rumble as there would be for the Fireball Run.
My concern is, and I'm sorry that you're in this spot. Jake, when you were asking about the waiver, it doesn't hold Fireball Run accountable for anything that goes wrong. Lawyers are magical beings. Is there a way to develop some language that says under no circumstance would the city of Yankton be held responsible if...
Well, we went a step further and prepared a release that we were requiring all of the participants and drivers to sign, which I believe was approved as part of the motion you guys approved last time. I haven't heard that there was any objections to that waiver, but I don't think what we're doing tonight disposes or dispenses with that requirement. Am I accurate in what the motion was last week that included the waiver?
have they been sent the waiver? I guess that would be my next question, but
The motion that was approved last time included the waiver.
Yeah, we wouldn't be doing away with that.
That's the commission's purview.
I would venture to guess that that's maybe the first time they've been asked to do something like that. I don't know. Part of the rest of the problem here is Hurricane Irma, which has affected them greatly. And we received an email from them over the weekend of they are scrambling because their final week before the event, which starts on the 22nd, is now greatly impacted. So I don't want to speak for them, but I would say that that might just be a real stretch to get them, to get the drivers and get all that stuff done in wake of what they're experiencing right now.
No, I guess looking what we have in front of us, we have city attorney, city manager, and the documentation from the people who did the study. We wouldn't not only be hurting ourselves, I think, but every citizen in Yankton, if, chance of anything happening are very slim, but I think it's our responsibility to follow the information that's in front of us, and all that information is telling us no. So unless someone has a better idea why it would be okay, Because in 2 weeks, we could have another, and another, and another, and we have to say yes to all of them. So sooner or later, you have to start following the information that's in front of you.
Yeah, that would be my concern too, is that if something happened, and again, Slim, I get that, but I don't know how it seems to me we're just at fault. We opened it up knowing that it was not rated, that the bridge was not rated for vehicles. And that's the killer. I mean, I'd even be concerned whether there's a potential that we'd lose insurance coverage over that, because we've knowingly allowed that to happen without there being a study to say that we can put vehicular traffic. The study, I think, is really expensive, right? To even like a few $100,000. That's my recollection, to actually do a study like that to find out whether we can do vehicular traffic. And that's maybe something that the commission wants to do at some point in time, because these will come up. But boy, I too am really hesitant to say, well, it's not really what the bridge is rated for, but let's do it anyways, because nothing will happen. That just seems to be a pretty high risk that, boy, if it did, we lose. You know, it's one of those you can't undo. You can't unring that bell. And I have real mixed feelings, because I know before they even repaired the bridge, they had buses lined up on it. You know, and I recognize that. And so, I mean, I think you could probably run tanks over that bridge and it would be fine. But that's my concern, is that we don't have the data that backs us up, that if something does happen, we can say, well, hey, we relied on the engineer, and they said it would be safe.
Any more questions? Anybody from the public? Anybody else?
Dave, can you elaborate, though? You said something about losing insurance coverage over something like this?
Yeah, I don't know whether that would happen or not, but I'd be concerned that, you know, if you knowingly take a risk, you know, sometimes your insurance coverage could be jeopardized because we allowed something to happen that we clearly shouldn't have allowed. I don't know whether that's the case. You know, I think we are under the People Fund. You know, it's probably pretty broad coverage, but I would just be hesitant to take that risk of doing something that I know was going to be at a potentially, you know, where we aren't covered if something, you know, we are knowingly allowing something to happen when we don't have the rating on the bridge. Again, whether that's the case or not, I don't know. You'd have to look at the policy, but that's always a concern. You know, I always tell people, you want to always make sure you're within your policy and what your obligations are under that policy. And typically you've got a responsibility to act in a reasonable manner too, and not be, you know, wantonly negligent or obviously punitive or intentionally, which I don't think this is. But again, it's a government insurance. You know, it's a state-funded insurance, and I don't know what those requirements are, whether we could risk any kind of coverage there or not.
I think it'd be important to notice that I don't think it states that we are not, or that it's not up to par to create the weight. I just don't think that we have the information to update it to see if it's still up as far as ratings go.
I did talk to the construction group that you had from Minneapolis that inspected it or did the retrofitting. I also talked to the state. And of course, all of them are going to say the same thing. We won't say anything due to liability. In the same breath, nobody thinks that anything is going to happen, and I get that. I am just incredibly concerned because we let the motorcycles on it. We made this promise a year ago. I mean, we had commissioners in the room. Amy, you were in the room, and we knew it was a pedestrian bridge at that time. And that should have been the time when we said, no, we really can't make that recommendation, that even though it was kind of a snowball's chance of us getting this, it was put out there with the option that if we did get it, we were going to allow them to do it. And now we're not going to allow them to do it. And we've done some other things on the bridge. So I know eventually that you're going to have to just say no. But again, I just am very, very concerned that we are just not going to look very good on that entire production as a final product when we're going to be in front of 9 million viewers, and there's going to be these little snippets about Yankton, but there won't be any big intro or anything like that I'm just terribly concerned about.
I think that's kind of where I'm at, and in thinking about this, I think two things kind of come to mind. One, we did, in essence, make a commitment, and part of it in bidding this show was the use of that bridge. And I know that, we've had motorcycles, and I think that's, I think Amy herself has said she's talked to Jeff and said that's probably not going to be an option next year for Rock and Rumble, and maybe that's where it is as we finish up our commitments. To my knowledge, this is the last event that we've potentially put together that involves taking vehicular cars across the bridge. And then the other thing I think that came to mind, and I'll use Mr. Mingo's little but-for test, which seems to work for other things. To me, would we get this event but for the use of that bridge? And the answer is probably no. We wouldn't have. That was part of the bid and part of the appeal in getting a section of that show. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
But refresh my recollection, when you talk about it was submitted to them, was the city a part of that, or just the chamber? Or what was the city's role in that?
In the initial meetings, it involved CVB, Chamber, NFAA, Mayor Gross at the time, and Amy, and then Crystal Nelson.
Okay, and did we ever, other than just the recent action, have we ever had any action previously, or is that something that's all been outside of the, I guess, something that we would have even looked at?
I don't recall the commission taking action other than on any particular item, other than us discussing, supporting the bid.
Okay.
In general terms.
Any other questions?
So this report that was referenced, this 2009 explanation that we've been provided about the bridge design loading, have we talked at all about the 2011 flooding and how it actually impacts the accuracy of this? Even, here we are several years later, but do we have any insight into what kind of impact that flooding may have had on the bridge?
Adam may have some understanding of that. Part of what we want to find out with the underwater inspection that is slated for this year is, what impacts that the flooding may have had and the change, just the dynamics of the river may have had underwater of the bridge, which is another consideration. That is scheduled this year. And when we talked about doing a deck inspection, but that needs to be planned in our capital improvement plan because it is rather expensive endeavor. But Adam, maybe you want to speak to the flood, if you know anything.
To my knowledge, no studies have been done on the structure since the city took ownership. That's about all I can say, I guess. There's been no underwater inspections or above water inspections.
Julie, do you have some comments?
I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in because last year when we talked about bragging rates, we even talked about next year being this year, maybe taking the cars across the bridge for the final one, and everybody here kind of shook their heads yes, which, we haven't discussed that at all. But my other concern as an insurance agent would be, what about Fireball Run suing you guys for promises you made and not kept? That would be my concern too. And the other thing I'm going to say is, that bridge has a lot of activity. I'm down there every day. I see people on that thing. And if you guys have any concern about anything with that bridge, maybe the studies need to be made. Maybe we need to invest in Yankton, invest in those studies, just as you would in anything else that grow in the city and being the activity that you have down there and wanting that bridge to succeed and be more active. But I would be really worried about a lawsuit from Fireball Run and whatever you guys promised them.
I'm not too worried about that because I'd be more worried about 9 million people seeing an accident and knowing that we had a public meeting on it. That's a bigger concern. That's, we've got all the information in front of us. So.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of concern about a lawsuit from Fireball Run either, because that's why I'm wondering, what the promises were, because I know this is always, this has been something that's been kind of bubbling up, and been a concern, I know, of staff in the engineering department. I just think that, again, a lot of people are on it. I'm guessing you could take a massive load and put it on there. It's just that the risks are extremely large. Well, the risk may be very small, but the damage is very large, and that's that ratio that makes it very difficult to have it go forward.
I'm not at all concerned about the liability from the Fireball Run because we don't have any contractual privity with them. We haven't entered into any agreements with them. We perhaps courted them, but even that was not official action of this board. I'm not suggesting that if we line something like that up, we don't follow through. I'm not expressing no opinion. I just don't view this as being something that would create liability for the city.
So can someone from the chamber answer that question then if they're concerned of potential liability here?
Liability of being sued?
Yeah.
We signed a contract. Yes, we could be.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Moser.
Aye.
Sarda.
No.
Fertig.
Aye.
Knopf.
No.
Mybom.
Pass.
Minor.
No.
Mayor Hoffner.
Abstain.
And we'll go back to Tony.
Aye.
We have a 3-3 vote. Mayor Hoffner abstaining.
Okay, we did not get a majority, so the motion fails.
I would like to make a motion to, I can bring that back, right?
This one is done. You're making a
Yep,
new motion.
I would like to
now,
I would like to make a motion to, let me get back in here. I'd like to make a motion to allow the bridge closure one level, September 29th, 2017, to be used for Fireball Run and all vehicles at the same time.
Could you repeat that motion, please?
I would like to make a motion to allow the closure of one level on September 29, 2017, to be used in the Fireball Run, to allow up to the 40 vehicles allowed for the filming of the Fireball Run between 7 and, or what's the time? What is it? Between 7 and 9 a.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Roll call, please.
Sarda.
No.
Fertig.
Aye.
Knopf.
No.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
No.
Moser.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Abstain.
Same 3-3 with one abstention.
Motion failed. Moving on to number 2 under new business, the bid award for annual supply of bulk de-icing salt, memorandum 17-192.
Move the memorandum for Nebraska Salt and Grain.
Second?
A second. Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the public? Roll call, please.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Mosier,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Burdick.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye. Motion carried. Moving on to number 3 under new business. A proposal for the adjustment of solid waste collection rates, memorandum 17-201. What is your pleasure?
Move the memorandum.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Mybom,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Mosier,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Burdick.
Aye.
Knopf,
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye. Motion carried. Number 4 under new business is a proposal for adjusting sewer rates, memorandum 17-201.
Move the memorandum.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Minor,
Aye.
Mosier,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Burdick.
Aye.
Knopf,
Aye.
Mybom,
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye. Motion carried. Number 5 under new business, proposal for adjusting water rates, resolution 17-38, memorandum 17-203.
Move the memorandum.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, we got a question about the surcharge. I guess when I read the memorandum, I'm trying to figure out, we put that incrementally so there wouldn't be a big change. And so we still don't, are we going to have to utilize that entire surcharge for the, over that 4-year period, the increase?
We'll begin by doing that because that surcharge is what it would take to cover the whole 37 million debt. When we get further down the line, if we don't have as much debt, we maybe not have to. But again, it's in place right now as 4 increments, so.
Right, and I guess my question is, there's still the opportunity that could back off on the back end, or do you think we're gonna need the entire 4 increments?
I wouldn't go out on a limb and say I'm going to make you promise that we won't do it. So, we will certainly review it. It's no different than the wastewater and the solid waste collection too. Both those are kind of in a state of flux because of not knowing where we're at on the end of those projects. But we'll certainly be reviewing them all when we're done. So.
Well, and just my recollection from our discussion was that we do have that opportunity to back it off if we don't need the money, because we've been surcharging a lot, and if we can give some relief on that, that would be
You always
good.
have that option.
Okay.
As long as you haven't incurred the debt. You still have to have enough
Right.
coverage for 110%. So.
Sure.
Al, maybe you could point out on your calculations for the viewing audience, especially on the average, what this total, these 3 items for the average user comes out to per month? I know you have that amount.
The average user in our community right now uses approximately 5,000 gallons. That's water, sewer, and certainly garbage is not by volume, but all 3 of these rates combined, including the surcharge that was previously passed last year, would amount to $6.17 per month for the average customer. It would certainly be less for people that use less than 5,000, and certainly more for those that use more than 5,000.
Hey, thank you, Al. Any other questions? Anybody from the audience? Roll call, please.
Mosier,
Aye.
Johnson, I'm sorry, Sarda,
Aye.
Furtick,
Aye.
Knopf,
Aye.
Mybom,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye, motion carried. Number 6, under new business, surplus property. Consideration of memorandum 17-205 and resolution 17-39.
I'll move the memorandum for the surplus property.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on number 6 under new business?
The plan was, is it to do sealed bids like on the vehicles or auction, or how are you gonna?
Yeah, The plan right now is to do sealed bids on the vehicles plus any large equipment items that we have, but most of it is not worthy of having an auction. Certainly, other departments have had the opportunity, and a lot of it has been passed on between the city. Anything that's not usable will certainly be destroyed. So, if it's usable yet, and we don't have an auction, we'll be storing it again.
Is it an option to give to Goodwill or just to give it to someone?
You
or
can
something?
give to other governmental agencies, and you can give to nonprofits. So that's always an option also, yes. And that has to be by resolution. So again, none of that would happen without your approval again, too.
Any more questions? Roll call, please.
Sarda.
Aye.
Ferdig.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Mosier.
Aye.
Mayor Hoffner.
Aye, motion carried. Thank you for all coming. We'll ask for adjournment. Oh, by the way, probably because there's so many people that didn't show up because they're probably watching the Vikings win. I'd ask for adjournment, a motion to adjourn executive session to discuss contractual litigation and personnel matters.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.